We're on. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is a continuation of the hearing that started last Monday. And to start things off, I'm going to just read the public hearing notice with the note that the first two variance requests have been ruled on and they've been granted. So we're discussing the last two variance requests. There will be a public hearing for an application for a variance from section 32-56 of the Newmarket zoning ordinance permitted use table R2 district to allow mixed use development in the R1 district and a variance R2 district. Excuse me. And a variance from the section 32-46A M2A district of the Newmarket zoning ordinance regarding the project containing 62 parking spaces and a variance reference section 32-89 dimensional table M2A and R2 districts of the Newmarket zoning ordinance regarding the allowing of 41 residential units. 41 residential units. And a variance reference section 46A, wasn't that, it reads BE, wasn't that, isn't that changed?
Yeah, B2E.
B2E. M2A district of the Newmarket zoning ordinance to allow residential units on the first floor due to frontage on South Main Street requested by CC Railroad Street, Newmarket LLC.
And just a clarification, it was the first and the third that the board voted on and approved.
First and the third.
Yeah, so the second and the fourth variance is what we're discussing tonight.
Okay. We took them out of order. The properties involved are 1 Railroad Street, tax map U3, lot 138, M2A district, 3 Railroad Street, tax map U3, lot 138A, M2A district, 5 Railroad Street, tax map U4, lot 16, M2A and R2 district. The application is available for viewing in the zoning office of the Newmarket Town Hall during normal business hours. With that, do you have anything to add to those? You want to address those two items?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you for calling this meeting tonight, all of you attending. I appreciate it. We had a good discussion last Monday, and it was very interesting. The proposal that we're trying to do is going to provide a lot of badly needed modern housing in Newmarket. It's just very badly needed. There's not enough housing here, causes the prices to skyrise, and it prohibits people who want to work here from living here and making it their home also. It will significantly increase the town's tax base, and it will meet some of the major goals of the town's master plan and the zoning ordinance, which we'll talk about if you'd like to, but we talked about it a lot last time. As well, it's going to be done without increasing the school budget. One of the things that we've been very particular about is keeping the proposed units to studios or one bedrooms, which wouldn't be suitable for a family with children. As the chairman said, two of the 4 variances we've asked for were approved at the last meeting. The remaining variances basically involve the size of the project and the parking for the project. And the chairman very properly said, why does it have to be so big? And we honestly want to answer that as best we can. We've distributed some financial information to the board. If you don't have it, we have other copies here today. But this type of a project has a significant infrastructure cost and construction cost, whether you're building it for 8 or for 25 or for 35 or for, as what we're proposing is 41 residential and 1 commercial. The cost analysis that you've got before you will show you what the costs are for the different numbers and what the returns are. And honestly, the only way you're going to get new housing, there are 2 ways you're going to get new housing in the town. One is the state government is going to give grants to people to do it, like it did recently. And when you approved a smaller project on this site for 8 units last year, we were very hopeful of getting one of those grants, which would allow us to do just 8 units on the parcel. But it wouldn't have worked, and it wouldn't be built without that subsidy from the state. What we tried to do is come back to you with a project that takes other parcels, bigger space properties, and comes to and allows us to give you 41 new modern residential units in the town, and have numerous benefits for the town and its people and its businesses. The only way we can do this financially is to go with 41 residential and 1 commercial. And Ben is here tonight to just walk you through that. And we'd be glad to answer any questions you have about it. Thank you.
So as you can see, the first line on what I just gave everyone was land costs. It's a fixed cost no matter if I have 1 unit or if I have 42 units or 100 units. That's just what my land cost is. The site work is also pretty fixed. It's just the demo of the existing buildings came out to $135,000, and then bringing water, sewer in, doing the new driveway and the new parking. Construction cost obviously increases as the units counts go up, and then soft cost per unit decreases as it's more scale. You know, my architecture fee, my interior design fee, all these fees are pretty fixed whether you have 1 unit or if you have 42 units. So I kind of showed a breakdown of all the costs, and you really don't start getting to a positive cash flow until you hit the 41 residential, 1 commercial unit.
So the reality of the matter is, and the chairman asked a very good question, is that for you to get the new housing that you need, and for you to meet these goals that were set forth in your master plan and your zoning ordinance, you need to have more quantity, because you're not going to get these new units with interest rates the way they are, and with construction costs the way they are, without having a sufficient number to make it financially possible. Our feeling was that this was a good place to do this, because it is really 80% of it is in the M2A district, and the purpose of the M2A district is basically to expand the downtown, is to bring more people into downtown, to bring more commercial activity into downtown, to really serve the needs of the downtown. We feel that the downtown will be served by this, not only providing these housing, but by making a place for all the people who work in town to live. That is why we think this is a very good place for this project, and that we think that this is the right number, because it financially works. It doesn't make a lot of money, but it works.
One question. What was the amount you were looking for from the state grant program? What was
It was
ballpark?
$458,000, I think, was the amount that we applied for.
clarifying question?
Yep.
Yeah, so on the 25, 35, 42, you have the 770 across the board.
Yep.
Can you just explain why the 85 is for the 8?
So the 85 unit is just the railroad lot, which is
Okay.
1 railroad and 3 railroad, I believe. And
Okay.
then once you go up, we want to add the additional land, which is 5 railroads.
Okay, thanks.
From my standpoint, the numbers do have a lot more complexity than is demonstrated here. For example, depreciation isn't here, tax increment financing is, tax credits aren't here.
So we wouldn't be getting any types of tax credits.
For low-income housing?
This isn't low-income housing.
What is it?
No, it's going to be market rent.
That was a great question. So, can you explain to me what the difference is between
There's,
Well,
I'm not even going to get into it because I
well,
don't even understand.
Well, it's
because there's-
important, it's important to
Yeah.
me because
So
the-
low-income
let me
is
finish, please,
80%.
the question.
Yep.
Because as I understand it, I'm probably all wrong, but let me spit it out anyway. The town is obligated, I think, by law, to provide a certain number of affordable housing units. Is that correct?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
I was under the understanding that towns were evaluated based on their providing a certain amount of low-income housing.
Well, they certainly are by the housing authority.
Right.
But they're not required, that is not a requirement of the town. What the housing authority is looking at is what towns have it. And they're looking at that for a number of reasons. One of the reasons they're looking at it is to where to put their funds. Now, we could make this project available for their funds by reducing the pricing a little. But the way we've reduced the pricing to the extent that we could and still have it financially work at 41 units is we've kept the units small. Because a lot of people in this town just live by themselves, in the whole seacoast.
I get that, yeah.
And so you don't want them to have to rent a house. You don't want to have them rent a 2-bedroom apartment.
So these one-unit building,
They're all under 600 square feet pretty much.
yeah, how much, what's the rent?
It'll really be when it opens to determine what the rent is.
Give me an
But
idea.
what I estimated was 1,600
Per unit.
month. Yep.
And
Studios.
For the 1 bedrooms.
studios, and is that,
That's utilities included.
yeah, no, I get it. But is that considered,
Low income is 1478, I think is what the number is.
based on,
So it's fair market rent is what section 8 goes off of. Each housing authority has a different number. For example, I think Portsmouth is 1525.
what's ours?
Newmarket, I think it's 14 something. I don't know it offhand, but it's 14 something.
And who sets that?
The housing authority set it on what their budget is, I believe.
So
and-
have they set it for us?
Yeah, you can go on to Newmarket Housing Authority and pull up what their FMR is. The state has one. Each housing authority has one.
I guess my, and I'll get off this, but I guess I was coming into this thing under the assumption that this would be not affordable housing, quote,
Yeah.
quote, but housing that would be available to lower income people. And
Yeah.
1,600 for a studio doesn't sound to me like,
1,600 was for the 1-bedroom.
For the 1 bedroom.
yeah, well, let's just stick with the one. Is that market value?
It's very aggressive for a 1 bedroom. I mean, if you look at the mills, a 1 bedroom is quite a bit above that. Or if you look at other apartments.
So what would the Mills one-bedroom unit cost?
I don't know it offhand, but I'm guessing 17 something.
But
like
it
that.
isn't, so it's comparable. Is that
Well,
fair?
16 to 17, if you look at like a percent, is a pretty big
But
difference.
similarly comparable is what the affordable housing unit is, which is at 14 something. So it's not, none of this is very far apart if you're looking at it that way. And what we needed to do is we needed to fit this project, which is a very a very small rate of return for the projects that we're involved in. We needed to fit it in so that we got some return.
I totally, and I
And so
appreciate,
that's why there were some subsidies and things we could get from it, but it just, you wouldn't get.
To do the
Quality
type of
that you
housing,
want.
the LIHTC deals, the low income tax
Right,
financing homes, you,
finance.
kind of the sweet spot for them is between 75 and 130 units, is kind of the amount you have to get up to get that type of financing.
All right.
They only award 4 projects a year, and it's one time a year that they do the awards.
Okay.
So it's
All right.
it's very
all right, thank
competitive.
you.
There's probably 5 developers in the state that get 90% of the awards.
Real quick, so this is on the newmarketha.org site, talking about section 8, like you were saying. So I personally don't know the difference between SRO and 0 bedroom, but they split that out. So SRO, it says 792, 0 bedroom 1056, 1 bedroom 1355.
So what can I, 1355, and what do I deduce from that? What does that mean?
I'm just providing the information you're
Yeah,
asking.
what does that mean?
So that's for your, it's skewed, because then they can go over 10%, they have a 10% allowance that you can go over.
Okay, so
On
it'd be
that,
1355 plus
like-
10%.
Right, and Portsmouth is, I think, 20% that they allow over off what they
So
publish.
it'd be 1490,
Yeah.
50.
Yeah, I know we have a
Yep.
section 8 tenant
Okay.
from Newmarket House, and that's at 1450.
Okay. So it's just shy of 1500 then.
Okay. I don't want to be a dead horse.
Yeah,
No, I'm
I
just,
no,
just trying to provide you the information. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
all.
no, thank you.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay.
The studios will probably be 1350.
That's the bulk of your.
Yep. 1350, right around there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said studios was 16.
No,
Oh, that's the
No,
one.
that's the one.
That's the
studio.
one.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant, okay. Studios, yeah, gotcha.
I'd like to open up the public comment. We have a couple of people over here, and we'll deal with this item right now, which is the, this was the park, well, no, this wasn't the parking, this was the density.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
density.
So that's item 4.
Hi, John Pepper, 170 Main Street. I own a restaurant down the street called Johnny Watson's, and I've been there for about almost 9 years. And in that time, we used to get, a couple people walking in every month looking for a job. Since the pandemic, it's been probably like maybe once every 6 months someone comes in looking for a job. So now the people that I'm hiring are coming from Raymond, Somersworth, Rochester, so they have to drive, which means I'm also competing with them driving to Dover or Portsmouth, which means I have to pay them more, which means I have to charge more for the food. So we've entered into this inflationary cycle, and I'm seeing it happen in real time where I'm literally having to raise the prices because I have to pay people several dollars more than I was even a couple of years ago. And I'm hiring way more high school kids, which is great. They work, they obviously live at home, so that's not a big deal. But one of my employees just graduated high school, and it took her so long to find an apartment. And luckily, the guy that she ended up renting from, knew me, so she kind of got in the door. She's only 18, really hard to get an apartment. But it's just really driving up the inflation. I see like almost every restaurant at some point this summer has had help wanted signs up. And I was having such a hard time a couple years ago. I literally looked into, sponsoring somebody from Mexico, because we make burritos and tacos. I was like, hey, we'll bring someone from Mexico. Where are they gonna live? You know what I mean? There was nowhere, it's just getting so hard to find a place, especially right downtown, that even if someone is gonna drive to town, where are they gonna park? We don't have enough parking. If every employee of every restaurant and insurance company downtown drove, there would be nowhere for the customers to park. So, that's a whole other issue, but I think having a building of that size this close to downtown where those people could work would be just a kind of an economic boom to downtown. When I came to Newmarket in 2010, there was Riverworks, there was a tavern, pizza place, Chinese restaurant, four restaurants maybe. Now there's probably 12 or 13, maybe even more. And in that time, we haven't gained any parking. In fact, we've lost parking because when they did the mills, you know, that whole lot up there got eaten up by deciduous. We haven't gotten any parking. We have really only gotten maybe the 3 more apartments that you added on above Crackskulls. Aside from that, there really has been no more housing. And what has happened is a lot of the college kids who used to live in town have now gotten sucked into Durham because they've built up Durham. They've added a lot more restaurants. There's a lot more opportunity for them to work and live in Durham. So we don't have this excess college population that used to sort of be around to work for us. So I guess that's about it. We really need more workforce housing. Oh, the other thing that I think needs to, I think we've got to remember this, is that 50% of the population of New Hampshire, sorry, the fastest growing population in New Hampshire is over the age of 65. It grew 50% from 2011 to 2021. Those people, and as our population ages, they're going to need more nurses, more LNAs, more cooks in the retirement homes. Every retirement home within a 10-mile, 20-mile, 30-mile radius of here is hiring for all of those jobs. They're all understaffed because those jobs pay. A starting LNA makes 15 bucks an hour, 16, 17 bucks an hour. They're not high-paying jobs, they're hard jobs, and we could raise wages, but we could also lower rents by having more housing. And so I think that the aging population is just a really big and important challenge that we as a town and as a state are going to have to deal with. And I think housing for those workers is going to be really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to address the?
I'll have to talk a little bit. My name is Sherry Nelson. I am not an owner. I rent actually on Railroad Street. And I just came just to hear what was going on and to just voice my concern about just the number of cars that would be involved. And I understand the whole housing situation, but where I live, we are literally right across the street where the proposed is for the parking lot to go in. And I just worry about just the number of cars in the area and for the, you know, the kids that are on the road and the folks that walk on the road as well. So that's just my concern. Thank you. 10A Railroad Street.
And I sympathize with you. That's been a nice little neighborhood down there for a long time. One of the things I did to try and put this in perspective was I looked at some of the other units around town. Cheney's got a 2-bedroom apartment, 825 square feet, $1,700. So, I mean, that's fairly small. Do you know what the dimension of your units are going to be?
Yep, so the 1-bedrooms are going to be about 600 square feet, and the studios will be, I think it's 525. You know, yes, those are his rents, but you have to realize he built that in 1996.
I was here when
Cost of construction has gone way up since those were built.
correct, but I'm just trying to get it in terms of a comparison per
Yep.
square foot cost. And
Correct
for
me
the
if
size-
I'm wrong, is that about the size of a motel room?
600 square feet.
500, 600 square feet?
It's yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
10 by 50.
Yep.
About that way.
Am I able to just ask a question?
Sure.
I'm just curious if this,
Oh,
build.
ma'am, you can't address the applicant, you have to address.
Oh, okay.
Address the
Is
board.
there anything to prevent, once this whole project is completed, if it does pass and go through and all that good stuff, to prevent the rents from being not what it was said to be, that's all? So if suddenly the rents are gonna be $2,500, is that written down somewhere if he's proposing a certain amount, or can that happen? That can happen.
Well, absolutely, but
Okay.
the thing you gotta remember is that why would a person pay $2,500 for 500 square feet? They could get 800 for 1,700. So, I mean, the market will eventually balance itself out.
Okay.
What they're proposing is to offer units available for, you know, kids in college that are looking for a part-time job. Maybe people just recently graduated, they're still in flux.
Right, makes sense.
You know, some of the labor we need in town.
Thank you.
But it's not, what I got out of my research was that it's not completely out of character with some other neighborhoods in town.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any more questions on that? Now, I guess we're,
So gotta close the public hearing.
uh,
No comments.
yeah, let's close the public hearing aspect of that on this. Um, So we've been talking about the
42 units.
41 units. So that was the fourth item there. We kind of jumped around because it doesn't make sense to vote on 62 parking units if we don't grant the 41 units to begin with. So we kind of jumped around a little bit for those of you following out in TV land. And we've closed the public comment. It's time for us to kind of discuss this amongst ourselves.
I need to ask the chairman a question.
We'll avoid it if we can.
I wasn't here last week, but I did watch the whole hearing. The criteria for the variance, the 5 criteria for the variance, have we approved any of them?
Yes.
Tell me which
We-
one.
No, we've approved the variance 1. which
Public
was
interest?
No, we went down through, no.
So, what you're asking is, has the board gone through the 5 criteria for the variance itself?
Right,
No.
okay. All right.
We went through each one individually. There were 4 variances that were asked. We went through variance request 1, and we went through all 5 criteria.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
And we did that for 1 and 3.
Okay.
So now we're doing items 2 and 4, which is the density of 41 residential units in the M2 district. Anybody got anything to discuss, or?
I do, I'm just trying to get organized.
So while he's getting organized, are we discussing the 5 pieces now?
Yes.
Okay, so going down to 5 with the literal enforcement of ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship.
That's item 5.
Correct. Yep. So, or do we want to start at number 1?
We can start at number 1.
Okay, then I'll wait.
It's our discussion time now, so if
Okay.
you want to discuss that, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll vote on it later.
Right. So applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction that's distinct from other similarly situated properties. Determine that the purpose of the zoning in question, determine the purpose, which we have. There's big special conditions of the property, residential versus multi and such. That cause the proposed use, the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. So, what's our definition of character of neighborhood?
Well, as they pointed out, there's 12 units down the end of the street.
Yeah.
That Vince put together a number of years ago. There's a bunch of smaller apartment units in there, multi-family units there. So substantially alter the characteristics. I'm hedging that right now.
Right, and that's where my question is, like, what do we define as character now? So you jumped up.
Yeah,
right, so-
the one thing that it kind of blew me away a little bit was when I was filling out the abutter list.
Yeah,
There's only one owner occupied on that whole street, I believe.
the rest are rented.
And the rest are rented.
Okay.
When I was filling out the.
And then not too far up, you've got all the Maple Street and the Maple Street also.
Yeah.
You know, when I first moved into town, I lived in one of Cheney's efficiency apartments, so I know the size of them.
I went, at the request of the individual that came last week, I went down and walked the property this morning, and I was quite surprised. It was not what I expected, based on the commercial buildings and so forth. I walked all the streets, and I was surprised that it feels very neighborhoodish. There are gardens, there are kids outside playing on equipment. If you look to the right, it looks like an old New England town to me. It doesn't look commercial at all. And if I were a homeowner, I think I would argue, and that's partially why we're here, that having such a significant building in my neighborhood would significantly alter the neighborhood. It just doesn't have the feel of the neighborhood. And again, I was surprised. I thought it was kind of a dumpy, it's not at all. It's a very nice neighborhood. So that was one of the points that I was going to make, is I think it does affect the character of the neighborhood.
One thing I would say to that is right now it's kind of blight. You know, you have a fallen down old warehouse that's there now. And so to affect the character, I think it's going to improve it by putting a new, nice building there.
Yeah, I don't. I think if it was 3 houses going in there, I would say absolutely. Just my opinion. I wouldn't want it if I was living in that neighborhood. Just my opinion.
And
Are we on to other?
no, I
Nope.
think we haven't moved on from that.
So then, going down the next paragraph, you have, as an alternative to A and B, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there's no reasonable use that can be made of the property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there's any reasonable use, including an existing use, that is permitted under the ordinance, this alternative is not available. So, with that last sentence, is there something that is reasonable, that's permitted through any of the proposals that would make that alternative not available?
And that's
That's why we're here.
That's part of the reason why I asked for the economic breakdown,
And then-
because
yeah.
we actually, town of Newmarket actually created the hardship there by the way they put the zoning map
Right.
together. So now we're struggling with that. And I can appreciate where they're coming from, but
Yeah.
I'm struck, my father was on the zoning board in the town I grew up in, and he said something, he says, if you want to control growth, buy the land. And they bought the land. Is their development excessive? The numbers indicate probably not. They got a reasonable rate of return on it. Is it going to change the character of the neighborhood? To some extent, yes. But I'm sure the people down on Beach Street thought the same thing when the Cheney apartments went in. Again, I'm not trying to make a case for them, but I'm trying to, we got to strike a balance here between the protection of his property rights and the people that are living there. As was pointed out, there's only one owner-occupied home down there. Everything else is rentals.
Right.
So are we changing the character of the neighborhood? To some extent, yes. To insurmountable, I'm leaning towards no. I don't know, is anybody else? I'm the only one doing talking here. Get me
Yeah,
off.
I
Piss
talk.
me off.
No, and I appreciate it. Again, I'm just reacting to the fellow that came in last week and said, please, go down to the property and take a walk around. And if that were going up next to you, whether he's a renter or a owner, would this be a concern? And the answer is yes. One of the discussions was that building won't be an obstacle because it's on a different plane. And you would it's not on a different plane, it's on the same plane. So I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but I'm trying to represent.
And remember, there's still a whole nother layer of bureaucracy this has to go to. We grant the variance, they've still got to go through the planning board.
No, I understand that. When I took this job, one of the worries I had was, I'm not a lawyer, I do development for a living, so I'm always on that side. But somebody told me, don't worry about it, just read what it says and do it. And I feel the same way, by the way, about, and this is my real issue, is I don't see a hardship that's created by the property itself, by the land itself. Its land is similar to the one that's next to it. It's not that there's ledge there, it is, and I hope I'm not skipping over where we want to be, but that's the one, frankly, that stops me, because it says very explicitly, in other words, it's a hardship exclusive to the petitioner's property, or is a hardship shared by most of the abutting properties. There's not a land hardship. I mean, I don't know where to go with it. It doesn't say financial hardship.
But it says property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other similarly situated property. So that it calls out zoning restrictions. So what he's trying to do is do something in
And I get that.
Yeah.
But what do I do with this when it says to me, the hardship has to be granted based on the characteristic of the land? And I've had this problem ever since I've been on the board.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, we went over this in some detail last Monday night.
I listened to it.
So there are very significant problems with this property. This property was cut out in little parcels by the B&M to get cash for its bankruptcy.
I understand
The
that.
parcels are odd and they are misshapen. The other, if I might, the other thing that's a problem with them is that there is a spot zone right in the middle of this. And that spot zone, in my opinion, and I've practiced law for 50 years in this state, is a violation of law. It's a little bubble that comes up that sticks right in there. So if you combine those two problems with the land, that's a significant hardship that arises out of the property in the current zoning. And it can't be ignored. The financial things that we were talking about were more about I think the density issues. I think the chair was more interested in, could we reduce this? I think we had gotten, or we specifically said we had gotten by the hardship issues in the other two. And they were approved. And then the chair wanted to know about the density. And so we came back to address that, as he asked, by saying, you won't get this town unless it's economically feasible for a developer to do. And that's the economic reality. It just won't be done at 15 units, or it won't be done at single-family homes. And that combination of the project's not going to go forward, and these very specific, and predating all of us, problems with the land. And there are problems with the land. There are problems with access. There are problems with, everything about those parcels that were broken off from B&M. We've been through this before, and we've found in the last time that there was a hardship created by the land. And that was a year ago. Then we went through it on Monday night, and the board, the people who were there, found a hardship, which was the layout of the land from the B&M and the zoning problem. So that's an issue, I think, that's already been decided and was a prerequisite to the granting of the first two.
That's
variances.
exactly why I asked the question of, had that been decided?
What we-
Because if it, oh, go ahead.
What we ruled on was whether they could do mixed-use development in the R2 zone,
Right,
which,
totally different.
totally different.
If that was the case, sir, and they had approved the hardship based on a financial or zoning reasons, I wouldn't bring it up. It's my understanding that that decision has not been made.
So I'd like to go back to and I'd encourage, because I specifically remember sitting here and having the chairman say, we recognize that there's the issues with these lands, the breakup in the B&M and this bubble of a zone that comes
I
in.
heard that too.
And
Was it
that-
voted on?
And no, that wasn't voted on, but they didn't have to. What they did is they voted on the variances.
We took the easy ones.
Right, you took
So,
the easy-
but my point, sir, is that I would say that that's been decided now twice. Once a year ago and once last Monday.
Well, we've got to resolve that because our code enforcement guy is saying it hasn't been. And to me, again, it's the fundamental issue of a financial hardship. Doesn't even enter my, I agree with the project, by the way. I love the fact that we're going to do the housing, but to grant it based on a financial hardship, and that's, by the way, was your answer in here.
No, what we had said, what we had discussed, the reason we had discussed the financial hardship was because the chairman was concerned about the density. That was not the hardship. The reason we came back with the economic numbers about the size of it was to say, this project just can't go forward without this number of people on it. And that's not what we're asking for, we're not what we're saying the hardship. In fact, the law doesn't allow us to claim financial hardship as a basis. We were
Right.
very specific in saying it was the layout of the B&M lands and it was the zoning. That was the hardship.
But as I pointed out in his preamble to discussing the variances in two separate locations, he discusses economic viability.
Right.
You know, proposed economically viable and then be economically viable without rehabilitation. So I didn't bring up the economics. I just
No,
wanted
and
clarification.
we're not criticizing anyone for doing that, Mr. Chairman. We're just saying that, I think I specifically said hardship isn't allowed to be an issue. Financial is not allowed to be an issue under our law during the meeting. I recall saying that. And that was my only point. And
Okay.
that was the reason I was bringing it up.
Okay, let me just read your response, and I'm not trying to play lawyer here
Sure.
because you're going to beat the daylights out of me. But you respond saying the hardship is owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from properties in the area. Denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. And you answer it by talking about the town's master plan. I don't think you addressed the uniqueness of the property.
But we certainly did in other parts of that petition, and we did at the hearing.
But this is, tell me what the unique character, and again,
It's the zone.
stop me if you
It's
want.
the zone.
I'm talking about the uniqueness of the property.
Physically, you are.
Yes, and that's what,
But that doesn't say that there. It says special conditions of the property, not the special physical conditions. I think
It's like-
it encompasses.
I don't.
It's like us sitting here and there's a parcel that was broken out 50 years ago. And it's basically a pie shape and they've got 25 feet of frontage.
Right.
We're allowed to give relief to that because of the configuration of the property lines. And in this
That's
case,
not physical
Correct, and it's not physical limitations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have a lot of latitude in what
Yeah,
we're
I
talking
think
about here.
I agree with you on the
Again, this has been a problem with me forever. It talks about topography, it talks about wetlands, it talks about, for example, a steep inclination.
Yeah.
It's not unique to, it's not in my understanding, which is probably wrong. If you want to change the zoning, go change the zoning. But, I just don't, I have to read it literally, and maybe I'm wrong, but.
If
that's
it had
my feeling.
physical, special physical, the
Yeah.
word physical in there, I'd say I'd agree, but it
It-
says special conditions.
But it
And-
talks about topography,
Where?
I'll get it for you in just a minute. It's right here. The determinative factor to contemplate during the review of unnecessary hardship criteria is whether or not the property in question possesses unique characteristics like topography, lot characteristics that differ from others in the neighborhood. This does not have characteristics on this property that are different from the neighborhood. It may have a zoning issue, which I get totally, but I don't see it.
If I could just respond to that
Sure.
section of what you were reading, is the other component is lot characteristics. And that's exactly what we're talking about.
I don't see it in here.
Is
Read
what?
it again, it says lot characteristics.
A lot characteristics.
Right,
Such as zoning.
and it's not just zoning, it's the layout of the land. These
Okay.
parcels of land, which were very unique.
I just,
They don't have frontage on anything, that, they're
Mhm.
just incredibly unique parcels of land. And that is absolutely a lot characteristic, which is exactly what this addresses.
I get what you're saying. Well, I'm on the hot seat. Thank you. And I'm not trying to be a bull here, I'm trying to do my job, and my job's written right here. Under unnecessary hardship B, and I talked about this earlier, that the proposed use would negatively impact surrounding properties, change its essential character. I still think it does. And you can, I get you, can say it's a new building, and it's not gonna be the same neighborhood.
And just a clarification, there are 5 owners in the neighborhood, not 1. Joyce owns her house, where I rent, above, the owner down below lives there, and the 3 in the back own.
That mobile home park,
Yes.
isn't that community owned?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I've been there for.
So direct abutters of what I had to fill out, I'm saying there was one that lived there, and it was the gentleman that talked last week. So when I fill out the thing, I fill it out for the direct abutters.
The neighborhood is the kids and everybody who plays there and draws on the ground.
so I'm done.
Can I say something?
No. If you're gonna disagree with me, no.
I want to refute everything, no. I'm having trouble with this. But I see 3 things. I agree with that there's that M3 2A zone. I agree with it. It's a problem for you, and it should be. We should look the other way on that one. The 41 units total. I think we need them in town. I don't think it would be a bad thing. My real problem is with the parking, because the 41 units produce 62 cars, I think we're gonna cause a problem at that intersection of Railroad and Route 152.
Especially on a snow day.
Yeah, it's an incline.
And that's something we're definitely gonna have a lot to work with on the planning board.
I see that as the biggest problem
Yep,
that you,
right.
with this.
I'm sure it will be a very
And
big
it's not the
concern for
50,
planning board.
it's not the 62 parking spaces. I see how you fit them in there.
Yep.
It's getting out onto 152, morning and night. That is the real problem I have with it.
Yeah, I think there's ways that we can look at parking in other areas.
Like what?
Looking at parking at other lots.
How are they gonna get there? You mentioned that last
So
time.
for example, right now, Crack Skulls, above there, I have 8 apartments. They walk about a half mile to that apartment from where their parking is.
Where are they parking?
They park at 5 Chapel Street, and then they park at Jerry Ave.
So did you buy rent spaces there for them?
I own that property.
Oh, all right, okay.
So I mean, there's ways, Jerry Ave is right there, so we own a lot right there where the welding is and the old railroad station that we can have parking there.
But how are they gonna get across the tracks?
They're gonna walk up on the sidewalk. There's a sidewalk that goes all the way up by
Okay.
Town Hall, right down.
Wow.
And it's, I don't know, that's only less than a quarter mile of a walk.
I'm inclined to go with it, except for the intersection there and the amount of cars.
Well, but that's,
I think the other thing that John talked a little bit about is a lot of these people are going to be working downtown and walking to their jobs. And
we
so
hope.
we hope. So
I think that's a good intent. I agree with that. That's
and
a
other
good-
things that we've done, places that we're short on parking, is we provide a lot of bike spots. There's a bus stop, I think, right up there, isn't there?
Scott,
It stops at, I think it's.
didn't
right
that
by
get,
Town Hall.
Yeah, the bus service has been discontinued.
yeah, it's no more bus service.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can, definitely during planning board, we can look at parking issues and how to do a traffic study.
Yeah. But 62 is 62.
Are we,
But if you look at what the national, 62, I believe, is above what the National Institute of Transportation says it would be, I think it was. So the Institute of Transportation and Engineering Parking Generation Manual 5th edition has 2 different methods for calculating required residential parking. The first method is 1.3 parking spaces per dwelling unit, or in this present case, that would be 53 spots. The second method is requiring 0.77 parking spaces per bedroom or studio. In this present case, it's 39.27 spots.
okay, that brings up the question, why did we go with this instead of the zoning ordinance requires 2 spots?
Correct. Yeah, and a lot of
It should be
municipalities
82.
are
I
down to
answered my own
1.5.
question.
No, they're improving it, but, I mean, 62 is still a lot.
And again.
Which, I don't think all 62 spots are necessary, but what we have to do is try to get as close as to what that variance is, you know.
Yeah.
I'd much rather not put pavement down
Well, of course.
and tell you 53 spots.
And 62 aren't gonna go out all at 7 a.m. either.
No, I mean, as I said, I hope
No.
that a lot of the people work right in town,
But it's
and, you know,
somewhat
the
of a
school's
dangerous,
walkable, you know, for
it's
teachers.
gonna make for a dangerous intersection.
Which will definitely be addressed at planning board. I mean, that's,
But I don't know how you'll address it. I don't know whether the.
A lot of smarter engineers than me.
All right. Do we want to close our discussion and go
Yeah,
to
I'm
the
done.
motion? James, you got any more to put in? Have at it. Now's the time.
I said my piece earlier, so that's
Okay.
all I have.
I ran myself around a circle twice already, so.
May I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
May make this process a little bit easier for everybody, is if you go through each of the 5 criteria
Yes.
and vote yea or nay if they meet that.
Correct, that's what I was gonna do right now. Now, we're on item 2, which is the 41 residential units. And the criterion 1, granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest.
Page
We're on page 5.
Let me catch up to her, Mark.
Absolutely. And we can discuss this one, we'll have to vote on it. we can
Page
discuss
5 of the application now.
Page, yeah, you got
No,
it.
not my side.
Yeah. Okay.
Page 5 of the actual application,
Allow 40 to 41.
41.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah, right down the
I'm on a different page. Sorry.
You got it. It's okay.
I told you I wasn't very organized.
I didn't stable mine, I got lost, so.
Oh, do you have the old?
No,
Wasn't there an
you're in
old
the,
one?
you're in the old one.
Yeah, so the,
We gotta go back to the front here. That was the superseded one. That confused the Jesus out of me too.
Okay.
duly noted.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Pulled that one back.
For Jesus, that's the one. For Jesus.
So anyway, so granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. In my opinion, the need for affordable housing in this town, it is in the public interest. So I don't think it's contrary to the public interest.
I would tend to agree.
I agree with that.
Then, so we gotta do, gotta do a roll call on
Yeah,
this?
do a roll call.
All right.
This is on,
Well,
Aye.
I thought we could just do a roll call on the whole thing.
No, I think we should go each one.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is on criteria 1.
Al,
Okay,
Wayne,
okay.
Aye.
Bob,
Bob,
aye.
James.
Aye.
If the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed.
Al,
Aye.
Aye.
Bob,
I'm
thinking.
thinking about
James.
it.
Aye.
Yeah, aye. Okay, criteria number 3. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. We can discuss this one too if you want, so. In my opinion, substantial justice, gotta kind of expand it a little bit. You look at the neighborhood, and I'm sure the neighbors are all gonna feel they're aggrieved and that justice isn't being done. But then again, if you open it up just a little bit more to the town and the town proper, then, some justice is being done. You've got the workers that can come in and afford to live in Newmarket. Am I wrong, or? Do you want to vote on that?
Aye.
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 Bob is aye, James.
Aye.
And Al was.
Aye.
If the variance were granted, the value of the surrounding properties would not be diminished.
No, I don't think
I-
that'd be diminished.
I've got no problem with that. I think those old rail buildings are probably do more to bring the property values down than anything else, but
I don't think you can kill property values in the state of New Hampshire. Right now, anyway.
Only if they want to,
so what do you think, Al?
I agree.
Aye. Aye.
Bob says aye.
James,
Aye. And the fun one.
Now we got the unnecessary hardship, and I think we've dogged this one quite a bit. Owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of the provisions to the property. And again, as we've discussed, the unique characteristics are the way the variance, the zoning lines are drawn up. You really can't put buildings that justify the cost in that footprint. It's,
And that goes back to how the parcels were done up by B&M?
B&M.
B&M, yeah.
Can, before we vote on this one,
Yeah.
can we make if we send this away, can we make an amendment to it or
Yeah,
a
we can.
revision with it?
And so you can attach conditions to the approval.
Well, this is what I'd like to do. I don't have a problem with it at this point, I guess, but I want it to be emphasized that something about the traffic and the parking.
So I do know the planning board process. They
Yeah.
are gonna they're gonna have a traffic engineer submit a report, do a design. Depending on that design, the planning board may require traffic lights or something along those lines, but there is a traffic study that's done as part of the application process to the planning board.
And it's third party too. It's the town will be hiring. It's not like my engineer.
I just want it to be known that I am at least concerned
Yeah.
about it.
So why don't we make it a condition that there is a traffic study complete or plan board or something like that?
it will be done anyway, so.
I
Yeah, that's why.
I know it will be, but
Dave, is there any comment we could pass forward about, I'll speak on my behalf, the number of units?
Well, what we're voting on right now is the number of units.
Yeah, we are.
Right.
Right, so basically, if you vote yes, you say have your 41. If you vote no, you tell them you can't have your 41.
We're saying yes to having them up to 41. After they meet with the planning board and put all their conditions, number may change, but it can't go above 41.
So I'm not exactly sure what you're asking.
It's not.
I think you just,
Okay.
I guess, do we think the zoning lines and the characteristic of the lots down there raise to the hardship criteria?
That is the aye or nays that we will have to
That's correct.
go for.
I think in this case, we were our own worst enemies. And, you know, they could have cleaned, with the zoning lines, they could have cleaned things up a lot more, but they didn't, so I can understand their problem.
Well, before we vote, what would be the other thing that they could do with the lot? That's the only other question. And that's
It
it.
could build me a very nice house.
Could you do that?
Want to know how I charge you for it?
Checking the numbers.
It's another use.
But
It's-
that's,
Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of saying that.
we can't tell them what to do with their property. Exactly, I 100% agree with that. But that's the only other question that we can ask.
This is in Massachusetts.
Right, or California or anything. So,
everybody ready to vote on this?
Yes.
Ready?
Al,
Al?
Nay.
nay. Wayne?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. James?
Aye.
Passes.
So this,
3, 1, 0.
and I think that there's a finding of fact on this. We want to basically list the public record and discussion we've had about the zoning lines and, you know, kind of, that was,
The zoning line kerfuffle?
that's a good one. Put that right in there.
I
All right. And the next one is
Well, we have
the,
to do the motion.
oh, yeah,
That's the first one.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we gotta do the motion.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
This is
You got it
variance.
in front of you.
All right, variance request 2. Motion to grant, move to grant a variance request from CC Railroad Street, Newmarket LLC, petitioning zoning board of adjustment for relief from section 32-89, dimensions table of the municipal code of the town of Newmarket to permit a total of 41 residential units with 35 residential units in the M2 Alpha zoning district and 6 residential units in the R2 zoning district on real property with an address of 1, 3, and 5 Railroad Street, tax map U3, lot 138, tax map U3, lot 138 Alpha, and tax map U4, lot 15, within the M2 Alpha and R2 zoning districts, as the petition satisfies the 5-part test of the variance statute pursuant to RSA 674-33.
Roll call vote.
Oh, we need a second.
Second.
Further
Al?
discussion?
Second.
Oh,
I
thought you
second, I
seconded.
seconded.
Further discussion?
We ready for a vote? Al?
Aye.
Wayne?
Aye.
James?
Aye.
Me, I'm an aye.
4,
I have one comment to everybody that might be bored out of their mind listening to this in TV land. If you don't like the decision we're making tonight, we have alternate seats that are open. We have seats for members. Come, join us, and enter the fray. Commercial time.
kerfuffle.
All right, the last item on a, here, where am I?
Parking lot.
Parking.
Yeah, I know, I'm gonna,
Number 4.
I've shifted everything around again.
Hey, what page you guys on?
Third,
Yeah.
11.
11.
Yeah, it's,
Got it, thank you.
yeah, it's right there. All right. The applicant seeks a variance to allow the parking for the project to contain 62 parking spaces, notwithstanding section 32-46, subpart B, 2, subpart C, which requires that the project have at least 2 on-site parking spaces per residential unit.
I think this is a no-brainer. We just voted for the units. We can either tell them they have to have 82 or 62. So we could save a lot of time and say yes to the whole thing. Or do you want to go one item by item?
We can do that again, too.
Okay.
Granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. We just authorized the units, so I think it suffice it to say that I think that it is in the public interest to have parking for them so they don't take up all the parking downtown.
Yeah.
Concur.
Al,
Agree.
Wayne,
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
James.
Aye.
Criteria 2, if the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed. I'm hoping that the planning board chooses a more restrictive criteria for parking spaces, which is their prerogative. But it's not, we've got to deal with what we've got here, so 62 parking spaces.
So they're able to, real quick, sorry, they're able to override that then as planning board? With-
We have to go through a whole nother,
Oh, yeah.
parking.
They-
Oh, okay.
They can go through the parking, the planning board can say, no, it's too much impervious, I mean, there's a whole bunch of criteria they can
Okay.
deal with, so it could end up by being at the, 53, or, so, that's their purview,
It's a whole other set of rules.
correct.
All right, cool.
I had the same, I had the same question.
Okay.
So, with that being said, any discussion on this?
I have no further comment.
Al,
Aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, James?
Aye.
Criterion 3, granting the variance would do substantial justice. Discussion?
Aye.
You're supposed to wait for me.
Yeah, wait till your call.
Look,
Al,
look over here. Aye.
wait.
Aye.
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 Right. Criterion number 4. Granting the variance, if the variance were granted, the value of the surrounding properties would not be diminished. It's already underused space as it is now, it's just an open lot,
Yeah.
so I don't see that it's impacted properties there, so.
Aye.
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 And unnecessary hardship. Owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose and the ordinance provisions and the specific application of the provision to the property, special application of that provision to the property.
And the proposed use is reasonable.
What?
Did you have to read, and the proposed use is a reasonable one?
Whatever it says over here.
Okay, bottom of number 12, bottom of page 12.
No, we don't, oh, and, the proposed use is a reasonable one, you're right.
And then going on to
Okay.
page 13.
I'll go up on my notes.
Well, no, that's a part A, the proposed use would not be substantial, oops,
Would be.
I don't have to read that, that's their comments.
Oh, my bad.
No, I was actually using the,
Oh, this one.
Cheat
The other,
sheet.
the other page. It's on.
it's okay.
Okay, so we've got, do we meet the unnecessary hardship criteria?
No.
What is the hardship?
Well, it's the same as same basic hardship as the number of residential units. They're just trying to fit parking spaces on the lot.
Yeah.
And they're putting less than what we would then require them to put on. So it's a hardship to put less than what the, you know what I mean? And-
If we say no, they're gonna find a place to put
Yeah.
82 on.
Right, so they would
If you,
put more on, so.
if we were to
Yes.
put the amount that was required, the lot would have to be about 50% bigger, I believe it is.
Oh, they're making land now?
Yeah.
On the railroad track.
So that's a hardship, I would say.
I think we've granted the variance, we've created that hardship, so now
We've created it.
All right. Okay. Okay.
are you,
Are you gonna answer?
He did?
Yes.
aye,
Aye.
So nay, aye.
So
read the,
variance 4. Yeah. Motion to grant. All right, variance 4, motion to grant. Move to grant a variance request from CC Railroad Street, Newmarket LLC, petitioning the zoning board of adjustment for relief from section 32 46 alpha subsection B 2 subsection C M2 alpha permitted uses of the municipal code of the town of Newmarket to permit 62 on-site parking spaces instead of the required 2 on-site parking spaces per residential unit on real property with an address of 1, 3, and 5 Railroad Street, tax map U3, lot 138, tax map U3, lot 138 alpha, and tax map U4, lot 15, within the M2 alpha and R2 zoning districts, as a petition satisfies the 5-part test of the variance statute pursuant to RSA 674-33.
All those.
Second.
I'll second that. Any discussion on this item? We ready to vote?
Yep.
Al,
What am I being asked to do
vote on allowing 62 parking units.
based on a hardship? Is that right?
I guess so.
Then nay.
I'm gonna vote aye, but I wanna send along something to the planning board.
Okay.
I'll make a note in the minutes,
They have the,
okay?
Dave send along something to the planning board,
Yeah, I will express the board's wishes.
or at least mine.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. They've got to do, a detailed parking
Can
study.
we vote on that?
Sure.
Can we,
So you can amend the motion to include a condition of the traffic
okay,
study.
then I'll
Which-
amend the
Which
motion.
they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it anyway.
No, I know, but I just wanna everybody to know that,
The board is concerned.
So,
So
yeah.
the vote was halted.
So we currently have,
So should I retract the motion and then?
No.
No?
no, so we have the motion as it is.
Bob has seconded.
we're going to put an amendment to it.
So now what we're doing is now we're gonna have an amendment to the motion to add that condition of the traffic study.
I would
So-
like to amend that.
So we need a motion to do so,
I'll second it.
and now we need to vote on the amendment.
Aye.
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 So the motion as amended will request that the planning board do a parking analysis
Traffic
Traffic
study.
study.
Because of the concern for
because of the
the
board's concern.
intersection at 152 and Railroad Street.
All
Can
right.
we add that to the amendment based on the board's concern?
Yeah, that's fine.
And now we can,
That would translate
Yeah.
your
Right.
message.
so now because the original motion has now changed for the amendment, we gotta re-vote on the original
Okay.
Okay.
motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye for me.
No, wait a minute, holy crap, holy crap, slow down a minute.
Gonna retract your,
We voted on.
You
the
can't say
amendment.
holy crap.
Well, no, you, holy bubble, you have now voted on the amendment, now you
Yes,
vote on
aye.
the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Right, so just to clarify, you are now voting yes on the variance.
No,
Okay, that's what you just did.
I don't want to, I want to,
Okay,
that's why I asked the question.
right, so you voted yes to the amendment.
Yes,
Okay, and now we're now back to
Voting
voting
on
on the
main-
variance.
variance.
right, and I'm still nay.
Okay.
Okay.
And I am aye.
And I am aye.
I am I.
So, it's
Sounds like a
3,
Beatles song.
1,
Me is-
0.
Me, mine is me, or something like that.
Yeah, I got you.
I am him and he is me,
Oh, boy, I'm
together.
Right away, so I
All
don't
right.
get anything.
It looks like you have.
So you got your variance.
Thank you very much, but thank you for the time you spent considering that.
Sure.
We think it's very important to provide housing in this community, and we appreciate you giving us a chance.
You made us think.
Oh,
Thank
it's a
you.
muscle that doesn't get used that much anymore.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yeah.
And thank you for taking a walk on the property for you who did.
Thank you.
30 days to.
Well, yeah,
to rehear.
if anybody out there is in adamant disagreement with us, you have up to 30 days to appeal our decision and tell us where we messed up.
Thank you.
So that process is they have to come back to ZBA for a rehearing And then after that, then they can appeal to the courts.
So would it be the county court or superior court?
Superior.
Superior, okay.
Yeah, but they have to come to the board first.
It's gonna be a third, it wouldn't be them, they've got their variance, they're not coming back to us. It'd be a third party outside that,
Disagrees.
Right,
And
right,
wants to.
Would you explain that?
what happens is our decisions here, it's a public decision. If someone feels that we've made an error in our decision, in our thought process, they have 30 days to bring it to our attention for
Right.
redress. We can, at that time, we can schedule a hearing on that. And they've got to present evidence to us about the nature of our mistake and why it's not in keeping with state law. And if at that point in time, we still uphold our decision, then they can go to Superior Court with an appeal.
So if the neighborhood were to
Correct.
come before us and say, it is ruining the character of the neighborhood or something, we would listen to that.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Doesn't necessarily mean that the board would vote to overturn,
Right.
but they would.
There's a case,
Yeah.
there would be a case then.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's all the business we have before us. I believe a motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.